What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In the last video we built this awesome self-supporting 270 awning. Love the way this thing has turned out. In this video we're going to be doing all the fabric work. The last video was getting kind of long to include all those details. So in this video I'm going to show you guys what kind of fabric you need, how to lay it out and get it sewn together. I've made this video as simple as possible, but if sewing isn't your thing, I totally get it. So I am going to be testing out some fabric adhesive options. The results might surprise you. That stuff is incredibly strong. One thing I want you to keep in mind is that I am very much a beginner when it comes to sewing. So I am in no way saying that the way that I went about this project is the best way. There's definitely lots of room for improvement. So just keep that in mind as we go through this video. So yeah, let's get into the shop and I'm gonna show you guys how I did all this fabric work. I do want to give a quick shout out to BRUNT boots for sending me a pair of their boots. This is not a paid sponsorship. They did not ask me to say anything about their boots, but I wanted to because I've actually been on a really long hunt for boots. I've sent back several pairs. I have a really wide foot and I find it hard to find anything that's very comfortable. And these boots have been awesome. These seem to be very well made and very comfortable. So yeah, I just want to give them a quick shout out. I'll have a link to their website in the description below. Definitely go check them out. Thanks BRUNT for sending me some of your boots. So this is how I did my fabric. This is how I did my layout. I just used painter's tape to get all my measurements. I opened up all the arms of the awning and I put one in all corners, here, 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 and over here. And then I measured the tape. I measured to the outside. That way when I did all my hems, it would draw in to where I want it to be. I'm not gonna give measurements because I had to modify mine quite a bit and everybody's build is gonna be a little bit different. But yeah, I would definitely do something similar I've done here to get your measurements for your fabric. Now, for the fabric, I used a pergola shade cover from Alien Home. I'll have this linked in the description. The reason I'm using a pergola cover is because you need fabric that's wider than your standard fabric that you can find off the shelf. Usually those are like 42 to 60 inches, and we need something about 65, 68 inches wide. So it's like annoyingly wide. It's like really close to what you can find, but not quite wide enough. And I also really like finding off-the-shelf products that fit my needs. Whenever I go to Lowe's and they ask me if I need any help, it's just like...
Is there a project you're working on? I know more than you. All right.
I never use their products for their intended purposes. So this pergola cover works really well. I used the 18 by 9 foot pergola cover, but I barely had enough fabric. I'd recommend bumping it up to the next size. I think it's 20 foot by 10 foot. That'll be plenty of fabric for this build. The other thing that you can do, I figured this out after the fact, is you can call them up and ask for the raw material. They do sell raw material on their website, but not this gray color that I really like. So yeah, I figured this out after I built the awning. I was like, I want to build walls for this awning, but I don't want to keep deconstructing pergola covers. So I just called them up, asked them if they would sell me a custom piece of fabric, and then they did. I have a piece right here that's 10 feet by 40 feet long, so I can build walls for this thing. If you're gonna do that, just make sure you ask for the waterproof material. And whether you use this company or not, you want a polyester fabric. You want it to be extra wide, you want it to be polyester because the polyester is not gonna stretch on you. So yeah, I found that this pergola cover works. If you have any recommendations on fabric, feel free to leave them in the comment section. I'd like to not have to rely on one source. So yeah, that covers the fabric. And now I'm gonna show you guys how I got this stuff sewed up. All right, it's time to break out the Singer heavy duty thread injector. But instead of using our full size fabric, I've decided to scale it down. Everything will be exactly the same, just on smaller pieces of material. It'll just be a lot easier for me to show you. Now, if you've never used one of these before, don't let that bother you. If you can figure out how to use a MIG welder, you can definitely figure out how to use a sewing machine. Both are very, very easy to do. You just need a little bit of practice. I'll do a whole video on just this machine, but there are plenty of other videos on how to set these up. We're just gonna work on the details of the fabric work. So yeah, let's get to it. All right, for our fabric, we have two pieces of fabric. We have one that's 157 inches by 65, and the smaller piece is 65 by 62. These are just ballpark numbers for your large pieces. I did have to do quite a bit of modifications, but those are the measurements that I have. Now, we're gonna be doing two things to this fabric. We're gonna be doing a hem around the whole exterior, and then we're gonna do a seam right here. If you look at the bottom of your shirt, every shirt or pair of pants has a hem at the bottom. It's just a folded over piece of fabric that will run stitching through. So yeah, it's pretty simple stuff. Now for the order of operation, we gotta do I'm gonna do all the hems that I can before I attach the seam here, just to be a lot easier, because remember, you're using massive pieces of fabric to run through the machine. So it's just easier to use two smaller pieces than have it all joined. So we're gonna start with this edge here. This is This is the only piece that has to be hemmed before you can attach the seam. So I'm going to hem this edge and this edge first. Then I'm going to go around from this corner, do all this right there. Then we're going to do this hem here and this seam all at the same time. And then we'll come back. The last thing we'll do will be right across here. So yeah, that's the order we're going to go in. We're going to start with this hem right here and here. All right, so to get started, you want to mark the top side of your fabric and the bottom side of your fabric, and you don't want to get them, mixed up. So we're marking top side and under U for underside, or B for bottom side, whatever you prefer. Now that we have the top and the bottom marked, we need to flip this upside down, but you want to pretend like these are joined when you do the flip. So this is going to come to this side, and this is going to go to that side. So now we're going to be working on this top edge and this side edge. So let's do our hem. All right, so to do our hem, we're on the underside. We're just going to flip our fabric over just like that and do a stitch. So I like to use something that's about an inch wide or so, and that's line it up with the outside edge. Mark here. Then we're just going to fold onto that line. That way we can see it as we're running through the sewing machine. We can see the outside of that line. And that gives us about a 1/2 inch hem. If you want to use an iron to fold that down, you can to create a nice crease. It'll make it a little easier to sew. So yeah, that's all I'm doing. I'm going to lay it across there. I can visually see the line on the outside, and then I'm going to run it through the sewing machine just like that. So now I'm going to take the fabric that we marked. I'm going to fold along that line right there. Give me a 1/2 inch hem. I'm going to drop the foot down. Now we're going to start and end every hem the exact same. We're going to go forwards, back, forwards again. So we're going to go forward a little bit. I'm going to hit the reverse button, go back to lock those threads in, and then go forward again. And I'm just going to keep that fabric right along that white line. Now we're coming to the end of the fabric. I'm not going to go off the end yet. I'm going to reverse it a little bit, and then all the way to the end. Now you see that little thicker section, that's where those threads are now locked in. Now to do a double stitch, we're just going to put it back under the foot, drop it down. Now you can, to get the double stitch, like the distance between the two stitches, you can just manually do it, or you can just move your needle over. You can move your needle over to the side. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Back it up. And go forward. Now we're to the end. Reverse. Now we have our nice double stitched hem. Looks really good. So now that that top edge is done, we're going to do the same thing down this side. We're just going to fold right on a line and do a double stitch down that side as well. All right, that's what my two hems look like. If things look a little bit messy, don't worry, because mine do too. Your stitching might not be perfectly straight, but that's okay because we're beginners. So yeah, now that those two are done, I'm going to switch to this side. I'm going to go down this edge, and then we'll do our seam. All right, so this is what we got. We got a hem. We've hemmed that edge and then down this long edge here. So now we're ready to move on to our seam. All right, now to join these two pieces, there's a couple different ways you could go about it. The easiest would probably be to just fold them like you're gonna do hems on each piece, and then put the smaller piece on top of this piece. And then as we do the hem up here, you would just sew directly on top of this, and then they would be joined. But I don't think I'm going to do that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the smaller piece, I'm going to fold it the other direction, and then I'm going to kind of overlap it and hook it around the hem of the bigger piece. Just like this. So it'll be a nice clean edge on the underside, just like that. Now to hold this together in the sewing machine, you're gonna need to either use double-sided basting tape or basting pins. So let me show you what that's gonna look like. To make this easier on myself, I'm gonna open those up like that. I'm gonna use some double-sided basting tape. I'm gonna tape those together just like that, and then we can make our fold like that. There we go. We're going to tape these two pieces together. Now we can fold over. Now it's going to be a lot easier to get it in the sewing machine without it falling apart on us. Really like using the basting tape a lot better than these pins. So what we're going to do up here is just fold like we've been doing for all the hems, and then we'll come right on top of this. The most difficult part of this is managing the massive amount of fabric, honestly. So what I would do is I would flip the fabric around this way. That way the smaller piece will be going through the machine right here. You're gonna have to roll it up really tight to be able to do this seam, but at least it's this one short section, this section down here. And then once you get past your seam, you just do like we've been doing, all the way down and then double stitch it. Just run it another pass to double stitch the thing. So yeah, hope that makes sense. Let's get this in the machine and get it sewed up. All right, so we're gonna get this in the machine. We're gonna remove this first pin and drop the foot. And we're gonna do everything the exact same way we've been doing. Forward, back, forward again. And just remove the pins as we go. Now we're on to the hem. There we go. All right, now I'm just going to run it back through to get that double stitch. Just move my needle over and keep going. Okay, something just happened that I didn't mean for it to happen, but this will definitely happen to you at some point during this project. My bobbin spool ran out. It's empty. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna refill your bobbin just like normal, and then you're gonna come back up here an inch or so, and then just sew right on top of this stitch and then continue on. It's kind of hard to see because you're still stitching the top, and you won't realize it until later on that the bottom side's not stitching any longer. So just run on top of the stitch here and then continue on. So I'm just gonna drop the foot right down on top of those threads. You can even drop your needle to get down precisely if you want to. And then continue on. So that's where that thread overlapped right there. Just snip that bit out. This will definitely happen multiple times throughout this project. All right, that's our double stitch seam. Looks really good, and then it goes into the hem all the way to the end. If we flip it over, got a double stitch all the way down. I think that looks really nice. So now the only thing we have left to do is just to fold on the line like we've been doing, and I'll do that last hem, and we'll be done. All right, guys, I think this looks really good. Now, if your stitching is not just perfect or you have some spots that look bad, don't worry, because neither does mine. It's just not gonna look like a factory piece, that's for sure, if you're a beginner. But you gotta try these things to learn, that's for sure. So there's one other thing that I wanna do to this. It's kind of an optional step. I added a 3-inch skirt along the perimeter. So you're gonna wanna measure out down these edges. I think for my awning, I used about 36 feet or something. It's crazy. It's kind of deceiving. Just for this little piece right here, I had to cut a 5-foot piece. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off with a 4-inch piece of material. I'm gonna add a single stitch hem down on the bottom edge, and then we'll attach this edge to our awning fabric. All right, so we have our skirt cut and hemmed, and it's about 3.5 inches now. But the only way that you can attach the skirt to the awning is to start at this end right here, just based on the direction that you need to sew. You want this fabric to all be on this side of the machine, and then you want your skirt to be on this side. That just makes things a lot easier. It just doesn't work out if you start over on this corner. So what we're gonna do is take the two undersides, and then we're just gonna lay this one right on top of that seam right there, and then add another stitch. We're gonna use the foot of the sewing machine to follow that edge here. That way we don't fall off. Now, if you're a professional, they would do this hem and add the skirt all at one time, but we're not. So this is the only way that I can do this right now. So I'm gonna go there, and then we'll make a bend and just continue on with it. So that's how I'm gonna do that. Let's get it in the machine. All right, so we're coming to the turn. We need to make this fabric turn. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get to the edge right there. I'm gonna push the needle down so that holds our fabric. I'm gonna lift up on the foot. All we're gonna do is rotate the fabric around. That makes sense. Drop the foot back down. Make a stitch or two, but just keep working the fabric around. You just gotta work the fabric around until these two pieces kind of lay back on top of each other right here. Now we're coming to our 90-degree turn, and we're gonna do the same thing. Slow. Now we're just gonna leave that in. Lift the foot. Work the fabric around. Drop the foot again, stitch a little bit. Work the fabric around, stitch a little bit more. And then it'll come around to where it's lined back up down this edge. And we are done. All right, guys, that's pretty much it for the fabric work. I hope y'all have enjoyed this little model here. Would have been a complete mess if I was using this amount of fabric to show you guys. The only other suggestion I would make, this edge right here, this is the part that attaches to the body of the awning. I use self-tapping screws and washers all the way down. This is probably like 7 feet or so. There's a lot of stress on each one of those washers right here when it's fully deployed. So what I would do is I would take some 1-inch webbing, and I would sew it either on top or on bottom all the way down. And it's gonna strengthen up this edge. It's just gonna make it a lot stronger and kind of help at those mounting points right here. So yeah, I hope this has been informative and helpful. This is exactly how I did mine, just on a way smaller scale. And I hope this has been helpful. All right, now that the fabric is all how we want it, we are gonna cut around the hinge. As this thing opens up, it wants to start binding up on this hinge. So we're basically just gonna cut around it. We're gonna re-hem it back up, and that way it doesn't interfere. All right, now I'm just gonna cut this out. I'm turning back now. There we go. So yeah, that works perfect. I'm just gonna get that hemmed up, add some trim to it so it looks nice. And then for this arm right here, still have it just clamped in place right now, but basically I'm just wrapping the fabric around this last arm, and I'm gonna sew down this edge. And then to get it on the awning, you'll have to put it around, over this arm first before you can attach it to any of all these points here, and then down the awning body there. So yeah, I'm gonna get all this sewn up real quick. After I cut my fabric out for my hinge, you could always just roll it over and do a hem just like that. But what I did is I used some elastic band. This is 3/4 of an inch wide. I put 2 pieces of basting tape on here. Peel those up. And then what I did with one peeled up, I just laid it over half the material. Just like that, all the way around. Just like that, and then I took the other piece, peeled it off, and then you're just gonna wrap it over the top, like that. Wrapping it all the way around. So now you have a nice piece of trim all the way around. You're gonna put it in the sewing machine. You just do a single stitch all the way around, and you have a nice trimmed up edge so it looks professional. So yeah, that's how I did that. One thing I forgot to add before adding this skirt was some mounting points for like a guideline. That way we can pull the fabric down so that water will shed off of it if it were to happen to rain. So I'm gonna have to take out some stitching here. I'm just gonna use some nylon webbing, fold it in half, tuck it under and re-sew it. But I'm gonna put one at every midpoint between the two arms. So we'll do one here, right there, back there, and then right there. That way we can pull that fabric. So yeah, I'm gonna get this sewn in there. All right, now that we have our hole opened up, I'm just gonna take a piece of webbing, fold it in half, fit it in there about like that. And then I'm just gonna stitch right on top of the existing stitching here and here. So there you go, not much to it. I also opened up all the corners. I wanna add a little guyline loop at each corner. So I'm just gonna place that in here and stitch it to that corner. If you're thinking ahead when you install the skirt, you can just put these in place as you're going around. That way you don't have messy stitching, but I wasn't thinking about it at the time. So I'm just gonna get this in here and get it stitched up. So now we got a guyline loop at the corners. It's gonna strengthen up those points where we mount to the awning arms too, so. All right, so now that we're done sewing everything, I do want to show you guys some adhesive options. This is Awning Super Fabric Adhesive, and this is Fabric Glue by Gorilla. These are incredibly strong. Honestly, can't imagine doing something this scale with glue. I think it would just be a huge pain, but this is an option. So I've done a couple of little test pieces here just to see how strong it is. So this is Gorilla Glue and Awning's, and this is that same main seam that we did on our fabric here is here, but it's just glued. There's no stitching at all. So I'm gonna try to tear it apart and see if I can get it apart. So we'll start with the Gorilla Glue. Oh my gosh, that's strong. So I cannot tear this. Okay, there it goes. Wow. I'm really having to pull hard to get this to tear. It has torn right there. Oh my gosh, it's not tearing anymore. Switch to this side. Oh my gosh, that's strong, dude. I did get it to open up a little bit, but I really can't do much more than this. And that is like, I am really cranking on this thing. Y'all know how strong I am, so. All right, so that's the Gorilla Glue seam. This is Awning seam. Let's see if we can get it apart. I can't get that apart. Oh my goodness, it's strong. I cannot get that apart. My goodness, that's strong. As you can see, there is no stitching in this. It's just glued right along that edge. Man. Here are a couple samples. These are just lap joints. They're not folded around each other. They're just like two pieces of fabric laid just like that. So we have about a 1/2 inch, 5/8 at most. You can kind of see it right there. Overlap. Just gonna pull these pieces straight away from each other. See if I can get them apart. Man. I can't get these apart. Man, if you're pulling straight across, you're not getting it. You might be able to get an edge and peel it. It's still not wanting to peel up. But you're not getting it apart by just pulling straight on it. Man, that's crazy. It has a little stiffness where it's glued, but it's still very flexible. All right, so let's now we'll just do a double stitch piece like we've done. Let's see if I can tear this one apart. I think this is gonna be pretty strong as well, but I'm gonna try to compare it to your double stitch seam. Man, that's not coming apart either. Yeah, I can't tear the double stitch, and I definitely can't tear the adhesive. Yeah, I'm impressed. I really am impressed with how good these both are. Like I said, it would probably be a huge pain to glue up this large amount of a fabric to be over a complete awning. That might take some time, but it is an option, and it is super strong. All right, now moving on to the awning bag. This is a Rhino Rack Batwing awning bag. It comes in left and right hand side, so if you do order one of these bags, just know that. Now, I looked all over the internet for an awning bag that wraps over the entire mounting structure, and I could not find them. I thought that's what this bag was when I ordered it, but it's not. This works on a Ketter rail system, so it has railing in the bag that kind of slides into the awning structure, and that's how all 270s seem to be. I cannot find an awning bag that wraps all the way around, kind of like the ARB touring bag that I did for my other 270 awning. It was a smaller bag, but it wrapped fully around. It was great. So yeah, I couldn't just keep buying bags looking for a bag, so I just stuck with this Rhino Rack bag, modified it. It really wasn't that hard to do. All right, so here's our awning bag, and as you can see, you're looking into the bag here. We have this like 6 to 8 inch space that we need to fill before it's a complete awning bag. These are the Ketter rails on the top and the bottom that mount into the aluminum frame that would normally go right here. So I have some vinyl fabric. I think I'm gonna just cut this down. I might double it up to make it extra strong, and then we'll sew it into this bag down these two rails, and we'll just use the fabric that the Ketter rail is on to sew the vinyl to. So I'm going to get this cut and get it sewn in. I don't think it'll be super hard to do. So yeah, let's get to it. All right, got it sewn up on this side. Doesn't look great because I was having some major issues with my sewing machine, but I got that figured out. But it looks good on the outside, and that's what matters. Can't even really tell. So now I've got it. We're doing the other side. Everything's from the inside out, obviously, and it's kind of a little bit more difficult because I'm having to run the bag through this part of the machine. So I'm just going to run down this line a couple times, and we should be good. All right. Now we have a full bag, and it looks pretty close. This is the side that we just sewed on in between our zipper and the other side of the bag. This looks pretty good. I had a lot of troubles with my sewing machine for whatever reason. I'm not sure what's going on with it, but that kind of made things difficult. But we got it done, and it looks really good. So now it's time to get this thing on the awning, get this project wrapped up. This awning bag does come with this little handy bag on the inside that Velcros, so you can put any kind of like guy lines or miscellaneous hardware in. So yeah. So after making the modification, I realized that these seams are not waterproof. It's stormed a couple times and rain has gotten inside the bag. So I mixed up a little homemade seam sealer. This is 100% silicone and mineral spirits, and it thins out pretty nicely. So I'm just gonna paint that on these seams. I'm gonna start on the inside and just waterproof these seams. So yeah. All right, so I got it coated on the inside and the outside. It's kind of glossy looking. We'll see how it looks once it's all dry. All right, it's been a little less than 24 hours and that seam sealer seems to have dried. I thought it was gonna leave a residue, but it didn't. It's just nice and clear. It's the underside. So we'll see how that holds up. All right guys, as always, I hope these videos have been helpful. I hope they've given you the confidence that you need to tackle a project like this. I know it's kind of a lot. This is my favorite project that we've done so far. Now that I've done all the fabric work, I kind of want to build walls for it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna video that or not, but I am gonna build walls for this thing. But yeah, hope y'all have enjoyed this one. If you have any questions or helpful tips, please leave those in the comment section below. Be sure to subscribe if you hadn't done so already. We'll see you guys in the next video.